Welcome in. This is episode 8 of the Altitude Problems podcast. I'm here as your co-host, Big Country, alongside my partner, PB. How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. How we doing?
It was a long weekend, let me tell you. How about you?
Honestly, it was a long weekend, but it was pretty crazy. A lot of sports going on. The eclipse of a lot of championships, the end of a lot of different things. And we saw the UFC and we saw the NBA and a whole lot going on this weekend. So a lot to go over for sure.
Well, that's not why it was long for me, but it was just long in general. But let's get straight into things. Recap some boring shit like usual. Talk to me a little about some F1 real quick.
Yeah, so we saw Lewis Hamilton, the old man, win another race after a long stretch with Ferrari. Finally wins his first race with Ferrari, makes it the third team that he wins a race with, one of very few drivers to do so, and obviously the oldest driver since 1970, I would believe, to win a race. So it was really cool to see someone I grew up watching, kind of the reason I got into F1 when he was back in McLaren in his young years. So it was really exciting, honestly, kind of emotional to see him take that W after such a long time. And then obviously he actually moves up pretty far in the championship with Kimi Antonelli having some engine failures after getting in an accident with George Russell, ends up getting no points for that race. So Lewis Hamilton ends up getting first place. Kimi Antonelli doesn't get any points, so that closes the gap quite a bit for the future. So we'll see what kind of implications that has. But other than that, it was also the first time since 1963, I believe, that we saw 3 British drivers win the take the podium. So everyone 1, 2, and 3 were all British drivers. So the Brits were all really happy to see that happen.
Okay. Yeah, like racing aside, is he the one dating Kim Kardashian?
He is, indeed.
What a stud.
Yeah, Kim's the one that's got him going this crazy, I guess. She's
so.
revitalized his career. The good thing that's come out of it.
How old is he now?
He is 43 years old, I think. Let me double check
Damn.
his age.
I don't realize. Yeah. I mean, people that old can't race.
No, yeah, you'd be surprised how long some of these guys last.
Yeah. That's kind of insane. Considering, if you're talking the other side of racing, like American racing, like NASCAR, like we've been talking
41
about.
41 years old, a little overshot. 41.
Denny Hamlin, dude's on a tear. He's won his 3rd race in a row. And I have no idea what age he is. He is 45. Completely different sport, obviously, it feels like.
Yeah, totally different sport, but regardless, still crazy
very
impressive.
Yeah, especially for like Joe Gibbs racing team. He's part of Michael Jordan's racing team as well, but as an owner, not as a racer. It's kind of cool. But got anything else you want to add into the sports world besides before we get into like UFC?
Other than that, not much. We did see another Mercedes still end up getting second place, but this was the first race all year that a Mercedes didn't end up winning race. So Ferrari ends up being the first team other than Mercedes to take a win this year, big for the Constructors' Championship. So we'll see how it all plays out, especially with the big midpoint of the season coming when everyone can switch their engines and everything. So we'll see what kind of drastic changes we see then.
Yeah, definitely. Tell me what, did you watch UFC 250 last night?
I did actually end up catching it, kind of a ridiculous idea in my opinion, but it was a pretty entertaining card. I'll give them that.
Dude, 7 knockouts is insane.
Yeah.
And every fight was good. Felt like,
a lot of them definitely, there were a few that felt pretty one-sided, but to top it off, that final card was definitely really exciting. Definitely one of the ones that you kind of wanted to be watching, one of those that was an upset, but at the same time you could kind of see, one guy was bigger than the other, one guy was hitting harder than the other, and so eventually time just caught up to him. All Gaethje had to do was survive, last long enough, and he was fine.
To be honest with you, I thought Gaethje was going to lose that after round 2.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. Round 2, you still saw Topuria kind of in a lot of control. He was still throwing some bullets, especially those body punches at the end of the round.
Dude,
you saw Gaethje really
liver
lean
shots
over.
look disgusting.
Yeah, they were. You could definitely tell that they were hurting him, but Gaethje held his ground, and you could tell that he obviously had way more stamina. And so obviously over time, Topuria just couldn't keep eating those hits to the face, and his eye just kept getting worse and worse as time went on, and there was just no way you could let him keep fighting.
Yeah, it was kind of like insane to hear like from the aftermath of that fight. It was like it's where he's like, yeah, I lost my sight in my left eye after round one, then you took the other in round two. Like it was a war that he's like really never really been a part of even. You know, Gage's
Yeah,
been in
he's
so many wars like that. It's like and I think that's where the experience kicked in those championship rounds, man, because he was just going toe to toe. He was losing rounds, obviously. Lost the second, no matter what. First, you could probably say it was his, but it was kind of up in the air. And then that third, he took over, damn near stopped the fight at the end of the third, if you remember. And then I thought Taporia won the fourth round, which was
He
crazy.
did. No, he did win the 4th round, but regardless, he was
Just too
fighting
much
on
damage.
fumes, there was just nothing else. There was not much that he could do. If he took another couple hits, it was gonna be even worse. He already ended up in the hospital after those 4 rounds, but, and it was still really impressive and really cool to see Topuria try to fight through everything, regardless of how many hits he was taking. I, for one, was really impressed how many, hits he was just straight up eating and then going back and, um, hitting Gaethje for more. So, it's not like he didn't put up a fight. It was a
Oh,
really
no.
valiant effort, and you could see after that first round that Gaethje had mad respect for him. I mean, they went ham at the end of that first round against each other. So,
Dude, it felt like
um,
one of them
yeah,
was just gonna not like just somehow knock each other out, and they were just gonna hit the canvas and it was gonna be over. That's what it felt like.
yeah,
At least after the
yeah,
first round. It felt a little
yeah,
bit more
definitely,
calculated after those two rounds, after the first round into like the second and third. But I mean, amazing card
yeah.
regardless.
And then I ended up losing money because Pereira ended up losing his fight. I had O'Malley, I had Alex, and then I had Gaethje all in the card yesterday, and of course,
Yeah.
Alex ended up getting smacked by
Yeah. I
Serial
feel like
Gain.
I feel like Alex is he's finally like maybe father time's finally catching up to him. You know, he
It
keeps
was
going
a
up in
tough
weight
division to move
classes.
into, yeah. I think that's the thing is he keeps challenging himself more and more, and I mean, it's obviously respectable, but at some point it just catches up to you and it gets really hard. So,
Yeah,
you're just
and
not
he's doing
really
it
in the
with,
way you're
like
comfortable
with
with.
age, man. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying he couldn't have beat Sirgan on
No, it was still a close fight regardless. It's just, one of them gets that one big hit that knocks the other loose, and then he just follows it up with more, and that's what happened here. You saw him just get one hit in there and then just follow it up with another, got him on the ground, just started hammering him and
yeah,
him down, and it was over at that point.
he's never experienced a heavyweight hit,
Yeah.
never
Yeah, and that's the
once,
thing
and
is,
at least
the
in the
higher
octagon.
the higher you move in the weight, the harder they start to hit, and it's just something that you can prepare as much as you want for it, but in real time, it's just something different.
Yeah, I mean, we can kinda talk about, like the smaller fights that kinda happen underneath, like Diego Lopez, like, he looked nasty, dude. Michael Chandler got his ass whooped.
Yeah.
Dude, that dude was running the whole entire time, I felt like.
No, yeah, he was legitimately scared. There were a lot of moments where he actually had to turn around and start running
Mhm.
the other way because he was just getting beat so bad.
Yeah. I liked what I saw of Bo Nickel. I mean, Bo Nickel's getting to like he's getting older and it's almost just like, hey, it's like now or never. So I feel like we might see a title shot here in the next like year or so, but he looked amazing, because he kind of had like that setback over the past few years with a loss, but he's come back to back wins, I believe, and he completely dominated his fight. And he hit him with like a leg kick and just knocked him out cold, and that was fucking sick.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even close. You could tell he was much more calm and controlled, and yeah, there was just no shot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's get straight into Rockies, man. I believe they're losing right now. It's new. But yesterday they exploded for 23 runs. I mean, oh, they're not losing. What the hell? I was watching the game like not even 20 minutes ago, and they were down 2-1. They're up 4-2, bottom of the eighth. Let's go. Anyways, yeah, 23 fucking runs. Are we kidding me? Franchise
Absolutely
record.
unbelievable. Cole Carrick hit a 3-yard bomb, by the way. That's why we're in the lead.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did.
That's my that's my boy. That's fucking awesome because he walked with the bases loaded to get the first run of the game too.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, but I believe Willie Castro had 2 home runs. He had a grand
7
slam.
RBIs.
Dude, I can't wait
Ridiculous.
for his player of the week card in the show. You know it's
Yeah, that
coming
should be
because they
something.
love
Yeah,
Willie Castro.
they do. Yeah.
And then I believe Hunter Goodman had 2 home runs. Who's the
Yeah,
other
Cole
guy?
Carrick was actually the only one, unfortunately, not to drive in an RBI, but he still had a solid
That's
game. He
insane.
went 2 for 5. Yeah, but everyone
Yeah,
else on the starting lineup had an RBI, just a ridiculous
yeah.
game overall, you know?
And as I
Awesome
was
to see
saying
the
from
bats live.
the broadcast today, Kyle Karros, dude, he's been hitting amazing lately,
Yeah,
hitting almost
he's been tearing
400
it.
over his last 19 games. So really starting these young guys, they're starting to come up. We've been talking about it for the last like 6 weeks that we've seen these young guys. They're coming up, they're getting opportunities, and they're finally starting to put the pieces together. Well, it's all we can really ask for out of these guys. But we also saw a couple debuts. Sean Sullivan, not really like a high ranked prospect in our farm. He came up, made the start in Las Vegas over the weekend. Had a solid showing. I believe he only pitched 3 to 4 innings. I think his pitch kind of got a little high. And then we saw Iverson Castellano finish the game
Castellano,
yesterday.
yeah.
Somehow got a save in a 14-run
Who
win.
I was really impressed with actually, because sure, it was a big lead, but he didn't give up any runs. I mean, he
And
pitched,
then that ballpark
3
too.
innings, yeah, in that ballpark with the ridiculous, hits. I mean, we had already given up 9 runs regardless of the 23 that we had gotten, so for him to come in, get 3 straight innings, no earned runs, just I think it was 4 hits over that time. It was a really, really good debut.
Yeah, it's what sucks about his debut is he was sent down this morning.
Oh, damn, really? Did
Yeah,
they
that's
explain
just one of
why?
those. It's just one of those things where you use them because you need an arm really quick, and then get someone else.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, that makes
they
sense.
reinstated Victor Vodnik from the IL. He's been down for the past few weeks. Hopefully, he can regain some of the form that we know he's kind of capable of. Because Loki, before he went on the IL, he was just giving up bombs. So I feel like he just needed it, man. Reset, hone in on some skills because he has an electric fastball, man. And if he can get that by some hitters, man, he could be really good for that back of the bullpen. But I mean, it is what it is. But the Rockies went 3-3 over the week. Obviously they got swept by the Brew Crew, but they followed it up with a series win over the Cubs, and they lost the series to the A's. But they also were in every single game over that 6. They didn't lose by much. They had multiple chances to win, just didn't execute. So I got a lot of hope for the team right now, even though we have the
Yeah,
worst record in baseball. But whatever.
definitely.
Did you see the new 4th of July jerseys though?
I actually have not. Why don't you do you have an image of them?
I mean, I can kind of show what Tobar's is going to look like. Let me see. But if you remember from a few years back, the Rockies, or not the Rockies, the MLB in general, they did kind of like for like Father's Day, Mother's Day, where you had light blue numbers, baby blue numbers for Father's Day, Mother's Day. But then for 4th of July, you had like the stars and stripes in the numbers. Well, they're kind of going back to that this year. And for one, I just think that's cool. But this is kind of what it's going to be looking like, which I think is
Ooh,
sick.
yeah, that's pretty nice.
250th year anniversary. I think you got to do something special. I mean, everyone's kind of doing something special for this 250th, and especially since like this is one of the only sports where we actually get to play on July 4th. I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'll
that's
be
pretty
at
sweet.
home, not at home. I'll be at Coors Field watching them wear it. So kind of excited for that. And then the hats don't look too bad either. So might have to buy a Cole Carrick jersey after tonight's performance, man.
Yeah,
This
after
dude's
you spin
balling, dude.
balling.
And honestly, like if there's like any Rocky, I'm kind of like putting stake in for the future. It might honestly be him. He's the only one that like has come up from like a hitting standpoint and just electricity. He's like a young guy that I just like you could root for so easily, man. But yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Hey,
We'll
go ahead.
kinda glance over this one. We did see the, Hurricane, end up shutting out the series over the weekend. Las Vegas Knights end up going down. Avalanche fans could be a little happier that the, Vegas Knights didn't end up going all the way, but good for the Carolina Hurricane.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good series. It was a tight one up until the end, and they end up, kinda blowing them out in the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can kind of speak for a lot of Avs fans here. I don't think a lot of people cared about the Stanley Cup after we
Hmm.
lost.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
that mattered was, okay, we don't want the Golden Knights to win it. And they lost in 6.
right.
Honestly, they looked like they were going to win that series too, which is kind of crazy. So,
Yeah, after 4, it was really tight. Kinda had no idea what was going on, but, they took the 3-2 lead after 5, and then game 6, they kinda just shut them down.
yeah, did you see what Teratolo said after game 5 when they lost. He's like, I'm gonna leave my clothes at the hotel. We're coming back. And then, dude, the Canes sent like the most savage thing in the world after that game. It's just like, we'll send them back to you. Don't worry, dude. That was
Send him back pressed
some
and dry
petty
cleaned.
ass shit, bro. I was like, this is amazing. um, but yeah, we're coming, and then the day prior, we got to see the Knicks win in 5 against Spurs. Jalen Brunson wins his first alongside his Finals MVP. OG gets his second. The alien loses again. He's pretty known to that. It seems like can't show up in those big games.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the inexperience really, really showed here. We both praised it in previous podcasts. The fact that Knicks had lots of experience, but it showed a lot more than we were kind of expecting, especially in this series. And I think obviously in the big moments, the Spurs led the series over 70% of the time. They should have been winning a lot of these games. They were close games, but they couldn't close them out. We saw the biggest lead in NBA Finals history get blown. Just a lot of things that young teams end up kind of committing those mistakes, and experienced teams, they know how to close out games. They know how to close out series, and that's what we saw the Knicks do. That's what we saw Jalen Brunson do. We saw that Jalen Brunson in the clutch be an unbelievably good player. He may not have been absolutely fire throughout the whole game, but every time it would come down to those last 2 quarters, and every time it would be crunch time, he was hitting the shots that he needed to make, and he was winning them those games. So it was really awesome to see Jalen Brunson get that W. Like they say, it was really cool to see a small guard. They used to say he was too small to be a good NBA guard, and he went out there, proved everyone otherwise, went against the tallest player in the NBA right now, ended up winning a whole series and bringing a championship to the Knicks after 53 years. So, it was really cool to see people like Ben Stiller, people like Spike Lee, a lot of these fans, Tracy Morgan, Timothy
Chalamet.
Chalamet, yeah, all these guys that have followed the Knicks for years and had all this travesty and all this hardship finally get to see a ring come home.
Yeah, I mean, New York fans. I mean, aside from, I mean,
There's a lot of New
they
York fans
haven't
you're
won
not
in a
happy to
long
see.
time.
You're not happy to see a lot of these guys when, the ones destroying the city. But then you look at the ones that are real fans, the people like who I mentioned, and those are the ones that really do get your heart warmed up. Like I saw like the video of the Knicks announcers doing their announcing kind of towards the end of the game, and
Mhm.
just kind of like the emotion that went through their faces when they were doing it after all these years. It was just really cool to see that kind of thing. Is really heartwarming for me.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw it in Denver a couple years ago. We won our first
Yeah,
title in almost
yeah,
almost
exactly.
50 years, I want to say.
Yeah.
First in franchise history. I mean, it was long awaited. And it's just a culmination of so much work, dedication that organization has been building for a few years now, because they signed Brunson, I don't know how many years ago. They
The
traded for
pay cut
Cat.
too.
Yeah, he took a huge pay cut when he could have took more on the extension, I believe, right? It wasn't
Yeah, it
just
was
like
like
it
a
was
$100 million pay cut on the day
yeah.
that he could have taken an extension. They go out, they get Ananobi, they trade for Cat, they trade for McCall, and you get the team that you have now,
Mhm.
and it paid off.
100%. And he was the first to tell you, yeah, it was worth the $100 million. Would that be worth it to me? No. But that's me. You gotta get your bread. Um, but what do you think the next steps are for the Spurs? Do you think it's just, reboot, you got the young core,
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
not
I
much
think
tinkering, really?
there's really no need to panic for the Spurs. It was strictly experience in this playoff run. They had what they needed to win. Like I mentioned, they were ahead in these games. They should have won a lot of these games. Two of them were lost by one position. If you switch the results of games 2 and games 4, all of a sudden they're up 3-1 going into this last game at home. So a lot of small things that could have been tweaked. I don't think that there's any reason to panic. I think that they have all the necessary tools. I think that Stephon Castle is a phenomenal two-way player. You get defense and you get offense in him. I think Champagne's a great shooter. I think Wemby, he's Wemby. You don't really need to say much about him. And then you have Dylan Harper coming off the bench scoring
Stud, dude.
20 points a game.
If he's not
So
starting next year, I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
yeah. Yeah, and so I think that they have no reason to panic. I think they have plenty of young, really bright stars on their team. They've been to the NBA championship now. They know what it's like. They'll have the experience next year, and they'll know, they've lost, they've gotten slapped in the face before, and so they don't want it to happen again. The Knicks a few years ago, they went against the Milwaukee Bucks. They went up 2-0. All of a sudden, they lost the series 4-2, and I feel like that was kind of the flashback that they got going up 2 games and then losing the third in this series. They suddenly lost that game. They were like, all right, we're not going to lose another one. We're not going to let it happen to us again. And I feel like that's the mentality that the experience brought them.
Yeah, I 100% agreed. I mean, there's been a lot of criticism on Mitch Johnson after all these blown leads. I mean, do you see a changing of the guard at all or no?
I think it definitely is a lot on him. There were a lot of changes that needed to be made. I think one of the biggest things that really it was my biggest pet peeve, especially in that 29-point lead game, was you have such a big lead, and rather than methodically try to get some shots, take some time off the clock, you're kind of just letting your players go up the court, dribble, take a quick three, and it's like, you're not really trying to increase the lead. You're letting these guys get extra possessions off of a less than 50% chance shot, and half the time they weren't taking good shots. So, it lowers it to like a 30% to lower. So it's just a lot of things that you really have to step in front of your players, and you have to discipline them. You have to let them know, you have to know when to make the right plays. We saw De'Aaron Fox at the end of that game dribble the ball out rather than or dribble the ball and take a layup rather than dribble it out and chew the clock and end the game. So that's something that the coach obviously wasn't instilling in the players. And I wouldn't say necessarily, especially because they're such a young team, that it's time for them to move on, but it is something that needs to be addressed for sure.
Yeah, and it's not like De'Aaron Fox would have won the game if he just dribbled it out. He would have got fouled, would have gone to the line because it was only a 1 point lead. But you make it a 3 point game, then that tip in is never a
Or even a
factor.
2-point game, the tip in sends it into
Yeah,
overtime. Like, there were a
exactly.
lot of different things, and it's just a matter of the coach has to let them. They have to be aware of that scenario. Like, maybe De'Aaron Fox may not have been aware of the scenario, but the coach should have said something about it. You get the ball, there's less than 24 seconds. Make sure you're paying attention to the clock. Make sure that you're dribbling it out rather than taking a stupid shot like De'Aaron
Yeah,
Fox did.
I think that's just a vet blunder. It has to be.
Yeah,
I mean, this is De'Aaron Fox. I mean, maybe you could say that once you leave the Kings don't leave you. You could say
yeah,
that.
that's what it felt like there.
But Mike Brown just won a championship, so
Yeah,
I
true.
mean, can't really say it anymore. I don't know, man. I like what I saw from. I was rooting for. I felt like I was rooting for the Knicks the whole series. Um, and I'm happy they won. Happy with the parity we're getting in the NBA. It's like I said before, it's unmatched, and we got another full
Yet
off
another
season of
new champion.
agendas.
Yeah, I love the parody. It's a new champion every year. We still have no idea. Honestly, San Antonio might end up winning it next year, so they're already the favorite to win it next year. So it's more likely than not that we have yet another new champion. So it's a really exciting time, I think, to be an NBA fan.
Definitely, definitely. Now we're in the dog days of summer, unfortunately, where we just have baseball.
Here we go.
Fortunately, we do have the World Cup. We got to see the U.S. win their opening match. I guess we didn't really put this on our agenda to talk about tonight, but that was pretty cool to see. That's really the only thing I'm following on as the U.S. I know you and the native are a little bit more linked in on the World Cup. If you want to talk about it, again, I don't really care if you don't, though.
Yeah, I mean, not much to touch up on. It's just the group stages. Nothing is like a huge deal. Flashbang. But we did see a couple different things, like the Spain ended up getting really upset today. They didn't end up putting up a single goal, 0-0. A fantastic
Yeah,
job by the goalkeeper on the other side, but it was kind of shocking to see such a big powerhouse not score, but at the same time it's group stages. You're kind of just focusing on getting points. A lot of teams ended up tying anyways. So it's not like it was that big of a deal, but we did see some big wins, like from the US 4-1, Mexico won 4-1. One of the biggest ones, one of the meanest ones was Germany versus Curacao. They ended up getting a goal. They ended up tying it 1-1 against the Goliath of Germany, but then Germany kind of just ended up laying down the Thunder and didn't end up withholding and ended up winning that game 7-1. So
Yeah, I mean, Spain drawing against one of the lowest ranked teams is just that's
well,
sad.
their goalie was, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but their goalie had a hell of a game. He
I
was
heard.
he was putting up some crazy blocks. They just denied all of the shots, and
Yeah,
we did
dude.
get to see a little bit of Lamine Yamal, which was really exciting. The young stud, the young star, the next Messi, everyone says.
Mm,
So we'll see.
heard that
We'll
before.
see how the World Cup goes.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the so he had like 50,000 followers before that game, and now he's up to like 4.5 million in
Really,
less
I
than
thought he would have
12
had more
hours.
before that game. I
Dude,
I feel like
it's
Lamine Yamal should have been bigger.
no, not Lamine, not Lamine,
Oh,
the
oh,
goalkeeper.
oh. Oh, the goalkeeper. Okay, that makes more sense. I was like,
Yeah.
Lamine Yamal?
By the way, the Rockies are up 4-3 because they can't hold the lead.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
That sounds about right, you know. But let's get into like I'd say our most important segment of the night. We're gonna do a little mock draft where we're the first team, the 10th team, in a snake order draft, full PPR, no two quarterbacks, just so everyone knows. I'll share my screen here and we'll start it up here. Kind of talk through our thoughts, our picks, stuff like that. So, yeah, I hope that sound doesn't come through. Okay.
It does not.
What are we thinking here, Pat, if we're the number one overall team? I feel like there's only two options, like we kind of talked about last week, between Bijan and Jameer.
Yeah, I personally think that Jameer is the move here. He loses the bell cow and the kind of the issue in David Montgomery. He's not going to have that kind of work. What do they call him? The touchdown. He's not going to have someone to steal his touchdowns anymore. So he's going to be getting a lot more red zone touches this year, and I think I see him also catching a lot more balls out of the backfield than he has before.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I like that pick. I mean, you can't really go wrong there either. Now at the 10 pick, now that you got like a lot of the big names off the board, just sitting in that 10 spot. There's a lot of good names here, but I think you go with if you're gonna go wide receiver, I think Almond Ra over JJ or Drake London's a much better position. Those are seen from like just best available. But if you're going running back, I mean, Genty is right there.
I
Just
think
saying.
Genty could be a solid pick, but I think this is going to be one of the ones that I feel like I was talking about earlier that may be a bit of a stretch that you may be able to pick up later. I don't know if I feel comfortable doing it at this point, but if let's see, what would I guess I do have back-to-back picks here.
Yeah. 10
Honestly, I
spot
think
list.
here I would take Drake
Yeah.
London. I think Drake
But
London with his size, his athletic ability, and then Tua being as accurate as he does, or whoever ends up throwing him the rock, I think he's going to be able to go up and get that ball regardless. He didn't have to have a great quarterback last year. And then if I'm taking a running back, honestly, out of these guys available, you see Kenneth, you see Genty, you see Devon. I think with Devon losing Mike McDaniel and Mike McDaniel going to the Chargers, me personally, I would take Omari and Hampton here.
okay. And some people might honestly see that Mario Hampton is like a little bit of a reach, considering he's not ranked the highest, but his production could be very good.
Yeah, I think his
And I
production
think
will
everyone,
increase tenfold this year. I think he was on quite a snap count last year as a rookie. He didn't get as many touches as he could. Plus, he had the injury early in the middle of the year. So there were a lot of weeks that he didn't play. But I think if he gets a full year under his belt, under Mike McDaniel, who loves his fast running backs, you saw what he did with Devon Achane. You've seen what kind of creative schemes he can come up with. I think Omari and Hampton's he's going to be a kind of a dark horse and someone who I would take early second in this
yeah.
year's draft.
And this one, I think you're kind of going best available. So, because you got best back-to-back picks, but I think Saquon's a great spot if he's still here.
Yeah, I think late second for Saquon is a pretty crazy spot when you think about it in the grand scheme of things.
He had a
I
down
think that
year.
that he had a relatively down year, and I think they only improved their offense. The only thing that I would say might be a bit of an issue is their offensive line may be taking a slight bit of a step back. You do see a lot of these guys getting older, and Lane Johnson is not who he used to be. Not Travis Kelsey. Jason Kelsey left a few years ago, so they're still trying to find that right center. But I do think that they do have a young stud there. Anyways, so I do think that there's really nothing to worry about with their line and with what they have working and developing with what I believe will be an RPO offense. I think that that's a good pick.
Yeah, and I kind of went with George Pickens here because just like the production that he's been able to get out of Dallas from Dak has been amazing, and I didn't really see The same out of Nico or Olave, and Neighbors is obviously just a huge question mark. So I think going with Pickens in the third round's an absolute steal.
It's a little tough. I
This one
think
is a little tough here.
honestly,
You got wide receiver and running back still, kind of a picks from. But
I think it's
do we
really
take a
hard to pass
chance?
up on Rishi Rice. I think Rishi Rice, when he's in that offense, he is extremely productive and he is really good. And he's hard to say no to. You know, he's always catching screens. He can catch deep balls. He was practically the only wide receiver in that offense, and Patrick's still going to trust him this year. So
I think you go if you don't go running back here with like Derrick Henry because Derrick Henry's always going to score, dude. I think it's a solid value there. But if you're not, I'd say go T Mac. I think T
I
Mac's got a
do like
huge year
T
too.
Mac. Yeah, I was gonna say if it wasn't Rishi Rice on the last pick, I would have taken T Mac. So
Yeah,
I think since I have back to back, I think I just secure my three wide receivers here.
yeah, and that's the solid flex option.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
matter what.
T-Mac and T-Mac in his second year, with Bryce Young just getting more and more experience, I think he's gonna be a lot more productive. He's gonna know the game a lot better than he did last year, you know? Rookie wide receivers can sometimes take a step back or sometimes they take a huge leap forward, so I guess we'll just see what he does. I think he does have the athletic ability and the athletic prowess to be one of the guys that takes a step forward.
Yeah. Do you think we go Zay or Lad here? That's kind of who I'm in between.
I honestly would take I think I would take Lad, and I think it has a big reason to do with,
The offense he's in.
same thing I mentioned earlier, yeah, with Mike McDaniel being that new offensive coordinator, I think we're gonna see him cooking up a lot of really nice plays, especially with a quarterback like Herbert.
Yeah, and it's not like we don't have back-to-back picks here. We could have taken either one here. But if you're going, for, even, and in your next pick, like I'm kind of like looking for like the third running back, Javante. I mean, you saw him kind of explode in Dallas as they have the same year. Just Trayvon take more of that RB1 role this year. Don't really know. Do you want to reach on Cam at 41? Probably not.
I
Is
honestly think the
Travis
most
Etienne really
comfortable
the
pick
guy?
is gonna be I do think it is gonna be Travis. I think with Travis Etienne here, you have a young quarterback still in Tyler Shugg. You have a couple new receivers in Jordan Tyson and Olave, continues to be your wide receiver one there. So I do think that he has a solid offense to be behind, and they have been drafting so Lyman to stack it up too.
Yeah, definitely. I don't mind that line there. I mean, we kind of saw ETN also just like ball out last year with the Jags. It's going to be his first year in the offense. So hopefully, he does well. I feel like there is some risk to that pick, though. So,
Yeah. No, there is definitely. Well, I mean, there's risk to every pick, especially when you
yes.
start getting in these later rounds here.
I mean, and then on this one, I mean, you got to go running back here, right?
Yeah, I think with my situation, I definitely feel like I gotta go running back. I think the best option here, I think, it's hard to pass up on Scadaboo this late, but I do really like DeAndre Swift in that new offense. I do think that they're going to take a big step forward this year, so I think I'm going to take DeAndre Swift. A little bit of a stretch there, but I think that with his pass catching ability and the big improvement that he had last year, we saw him take a really huge step forward, and he really started kind of developing more and more in that offense. I think that he might be a good pass catching third down PPR
I,
type of
I
running
mean,
back this
honestly,
year.
you almost drafted him at RB20, and
Yeah,
considering he was RB15 last year, I don't see that's as a bad pick at all.
yeah, exactly. And I think that just because, you never know if DeAndre Swift, they do have young studs like Kyle Monunga, and they did go and get David Montgomery. It is a little bit of a stretch, so I think because of that, I'm going to end up still taking Scadaboo because either one or the other is going to end up panning out.
Yeah, definitely. And we're not idiots here. We don't take quarterbacks early. Come on now.
Yeah, I think if you're going to take a quarterback early, it's got to be someone who you're really, really confident in. And I think unless you have a two quarterback league, there's not really anyone that I'm super confident in this year to be quarterback one. There's always Josh Allen, but if you can't snag Josh Allen, then there's really no point to snagging a quarterback early, in my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like at this point, Quinshawn Jugson's that 60 is a steal.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, a starting running back of his caliber, kind of saw his potential late in the year. This is insane. Like, are you kidding me? I know we're playing with some CPUs, obviously, but if you can get him at 60, whew. And then you look at this team, you got four running backs, you could probably start a little pressing on, maybe tight end or quarterback, but I'm gonna probably stay wide receiver here again and go with my boy Christian Watson. I think he's got a
Ugh.
big year in store. But
Can't
I
believe you
also
passed Carnell Tate. I was gonna
fuck
say
Carnell
Rome
Tate.
Odunze. I think Rome
Uh,
Odunze or Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate's gonna be the wide receiver one in that offense. You got Brian DeBoer as the offensive coordinator. You have
you have a lot
Cam
of
Ward
receivers
going
there
into
though.
his second year. Yeah, but I don't. Well, okay, I think he will very quickly develop into his wide receiver one role. I don't think that Cam Ward got enough chemistry with Calvin Ridley at last year after the broken leg. I think the other receivers that he was playing with, Io Manor and DK, they kept dropping too many passes for him to really get a solid connection with. So that's why they brought in so many new receivers. They brought in Wandale Robinson. They brought in Carnell Tate.
So we're bringing in more competition for the new wideout, is what you're saying. That's why we should take him.
I think that Carnell Tate. I think they brought Carnell Tate in for the long haul. I think they brought him in particular because they want him to play with Cam Ward for a long time. So I think it's going to be one of those special connections that they
Yeah,
create on purpose.
I
But
do
yeah,
like
I think
Rome
if
here
Roma
though.
Dunze falls that low, I think that's ridiculous. I think Rome's going to be that wide receiver one. A lot of people are really high on Luther Burden this year, but
Don't
me
understand
personally, I
why.
think for PPR reasons, I would always take Rome in this situation. He's the big receiver. He's going to get those slants on first and third down. He's going to get those out routes. He's going to be the big guy going and getting those catches and getting you those PPR points. Luther Burden is kind of going to be like a boomer bust kind of player, in my
He
opinion.
is 100%. So what are you going here, number two? I mean, this is the point where you got to take tight end, right?
No, I think honestly, with the two available that I have here, I think I like Caleb Williams this year. We're seeing more and more improvement out of him. I think it's about time I take a quarterback. I feel comfortable with the amount of running backs and the amount of wide receivers that I have. And I think Caleb is going to be one of those guys that has another really, really big leap this year with more and more weapons kind of getting developed for him. He had Roman Luther last year, but now he has another year of them and more experience with them. He knows them. He knows their speed. He knows where to put the ball. He knows where they feel comfortable. So I think that this year is going to be one of those years where you see Caleb Williams really blow up.
Yeah. And we were kind of talking about this on the pod a couple weeks ago, or last week, I guess. And we were talking about T-Law. I mean, I went with Kyle Pitts here just because the team needs tight end, but we also need quarterback as well. So not really much to talk about and just positioning there. But I'm taking Pitts because, I mean, he was the second PPR tight end last year. I don't think people remember that for whatever reason. They just call him armpits and say it, and they call it a day, essentially.
Yeah, no, Pitts had a spectacular year last year. He had a lot of it was pretty inflated by a lot of really big games that he suddenly had. I think he had one 3 touchdown game with a couple 100 yards. But regardless, it was a big step up from previous years. So I do think, you're going to see him improve more and more. And like I said, if Tua does end up being the starting quarterback in that offense, I think he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks, even if he's not the best deep ball thrower. He'll get your wide receiver or your tight end some PPR points. And I
Yeah.
think obviously following the slate and needing a tight end, Sam Laporta out of Detroit, he's been consistently maybe not one of the best fantasy tight ends, but consistently one of the best NFL tight ends in the league. So
Yeah.
if you're
You just
gonna
never know
if you're
what
gonna have
you're going to put
someone,
up.
yeah, he's gonna be kind of like that boomer bust guy. He might drop like 15 to 20 for you, or he might have some sort of a dud week at 4 or 5. So I think he's at least solid, considering how late we're getting him here. And with the available options here, you kind of just want to go best available. And I think J.K. Dobbins falling this low is kind of crazy. I don't think that he'd be starter for the full year, but I think he at least starts a majority of the year as a starting running back. So
Yeah, he
I
can
think
get you
he's a
through it.
solid piece. Drafting him late to at least carry you for the first, I think he'll last at least 6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of getting into like the 10th round. This is, where you have some flexibility to take some risk after your starting lineup essentially has been set. Um, and I mean, what are you thinking here? I'm a little lost, to
I mean,
be
I
quite
honestly
honest.
saw kind of an enticing pick at running back. I saw Jadarian Price.
I was thinking the same thing, but
Jadarian Price, they ended up getting rid of Kenneth Walker after winning that Super Bowl. Went out, drafted him. Obviously, they have Zach Charbonnet, but Charbonnet's constantly having injury troubles, so he goes down at any point throughout the season. You have a rookie stud that was drafted in the first round.
yeah, my only worry with Jadarian Price, especially at the 10th round, is he's going to be, competing with snaps with Charbonnet, but he's going to be not coming back for a while. But you also have Emmanuel Wilson, who they signed from Green Bay. I feel like he'll be sharing the carries with him throughout the start of the year. And then when Charbonnet comes back, you just never know what's going to happen. So that's like the only concern I really have.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still a first round running back, all the way
Yeah, they
back in
drafted
the
him for a
double
reason.
digit rounds. So yeah, it's going to be someone that's there. They wanted him for something good, and I think Wandale Robinson's a solid pick here. I think last year for the Giants, he was an insane PPR machine. It was someone that you could easily just dump off to. He was getting a lot of small catches, but if you had him in fantasy, he was dropping points for you, and that's
Yeah.
what matters.
There's a reason why he went back to his old head coach.
Yeah, exactly.
He's expecting somewhat of a similar offensive scheme around him, play calls for him, and there will be. He's that type of guy that you like check down to. He's like a safety valve, so I like that pick there a lot. I feel like 11.1. Like, I mean, the 111th pick is just, I think, well, no, that's 101st pick. That's pretty good value there.
Yeah, and this is definitely where it's getting kind of tricky. I would maybe take just because there's solid options available, a backup quarterback here, and probably just because he's best available, would probably take Bo Nix here.
Bo
You never know
Nix.
if your quarterback gets hurt. It's good to have a second quarterback. Don't want to get
Yeah.
stuck in a terrible situation where you're kind of just always having to shuffle them. So
Yeah.
that would be one of my picks, and then since I don't have a backup tight end yet, interesting. This one may be a bit of a stretch. This one may be a bit of a stretch, but I do like Kenyon Sadiq in this one. First round
Yeah.
pick,
Athletic freak.
really big, athletic tight end, 16th overall in the draft. Going with Omar Cooper, they're obviously trying to rebuild that offense, trying to do something. So they do have a couple other options to throw the ball to other than him. So it's not like he's going to be constantly getting double teamed. So I think that that's a solid, especially for a backup tight end. I think that's a solid pick.
Yeah, and as far as backup tight ends go, I think you could really take a look at David Njoku with the Chargers. I mean, you kind of saw with Oronde Gadsden, but they're going to have a two tight end setup now, obviously. But Njoku, I mean, he can go high point that ball just as good as anyone. Herbert throwing him, I feel like it's going to be really good. And then with the 131st or 21st pick, well, Jay Love is a backup quarterback. I mean, you can't really go wrong there. You just got to stay healthy. You just never know what's going to really happen with him. I mean, he was
Yeah.
the 15th overall quarterback last year. So we'll have to see. I mean, he was fifth in his first full year starting. So you could see that
Yeah.
magic again.
And then these last few rounds are kind of when I would start to kind of pick my stretch picks. I think one I'm pretty excited about this year that's kind of slipping a lot under a lot of people's radars is going to be really either of the two wide receivers that you draft from the Ravens. I think Jacoby Lane is a really good one, 6'4", coming in just before Elijah Surratt, who they also drafted a couple rounds later. He was their first wide receiver that they picked up this year, and I think with the lack of wide receiver depth that they have, and only having someone like Zay Flowers, I think Jacoby Lane's a really interesting pick because he's athletic, he's big, and there's obviously a lot of room for him in that team. So I think that that's kind of one that I'm really excited about this year. That might be a little bit of a sleeper. And I think, especially because I picked J.K. Dobbins, I think in case he ends up getting replaced by this guy at all, I think Jonah Coleman's a good one. Jonah Coleman's a great blocking third down back. I think you're going to see him get a lot of third down touches, whether it's catching the ball out of the backfield or maybe even just needing a short 3rd and 1. He's able to kind of pound it down the middle, kind of opposite of J.K. Dobbins, who really likes to get to the outside. So
Yeah, this is kind of like what you were saying, just like taking risks here. And one name that kind of like stood out to me, when I was like kind of scrolling through wide receivers, was Casey Concepcion. I feel like Steelers got through someone. You still really know who, and taking the guy that they took in the first round can't be the worst option.
yeah,
The only
super speedy guy too.
Yeah, he's fast as shit. All Jordan's gotta do is throw it underneath him. The only guy I could like see, taking those those snaps away. Yeah, you could say Denzel Boston, maybe Isaiah Bond, Jerry Booty, but
Jerry Judy will
for
definitely be
value
taking
here.
snaps from him. I think we did see a big step up from Jerry Judy, but I think the one problem with Jerry Judy, and he has this problem with every single quarterback, is he just can't build any chemistry. He obviously did not like Shadur. He was constantly going to the sidelines and complaining last year, regardless of whether it was on Shadur or not. He was always going to the sidelines and complaining about something. But it's not uncommon with Jerry Judy. Jerry Judy's constantly having these issues, so. Yeah, it's just something that you wonder if it's going to end up hindering his spot or not, because he did have some really big games last year for sure. And you do
Yeah,
need a defense, by the way.
yeah, I'm not chalking at defense because they're stupid. But I'm gonna go with like me kind of just like to talk about the pick. But another kind of like athletic freak that was in the combine that might be taking over for Dallas Goddard here soon is Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt, I believe. Dude is a stud. He's like it's just an athletic freak. And I was kind of mad when the Eagles got him. Yeah, because I was just like, dude, imagine you could pair him with Tucker Kraft. That'd be insane. Obviously, we didn't do it, but you never know. You always can take some risks at round 15.
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah, and,
Eagles.
another one that I really like, there's actually honestly quite a few that I really like, but I think that my favorite out of all these options, and someone that I think is gonna end up getting some good touches because they are also lacking a lot in the wide receiver room, is gonna be Antonio Williams. I think Antonio Williams, he's young stud. Washington needs wide receivers. We saw last year maybe Luke McCaffrey was the only help that Terry McLaurin had last year. And even he went down with an injury, and outside of that, he
Because
wasn't
Debo
super
was hurt,
productive.
bro.
Debo was hurt all year. They didn't, and they ended up releasing him this year, anyways. Obviously, it wasn't working out with him. So I think that there's a lot of room there for, it's a wide open wide receiver room. They drafted him for a reason. I think maybe they give him a shot this year.
Yeah, I definitely like that pick. I mean, if I'm looking at my roster, the only like kind of like area of weakness I could see is kind of it's my wide receivers. I think I'm not in love with them. They're never gonna. Maybe George Pickens is like, and he is a good guy, but like I just don't see him winning my week. You know what I mean? I can see Saquon or Jameer winning my week in any given week. Putting up that crazy game. George is definitely can do that, but who knows, honestly. And Lad's just not that guy either. So, but I do like the value with Quinshawn, Wandale especially. And I think we're all honestly sleeping on Christian Watson. I mean, before this guy came back from a 20 ACL last year, he was on pace in the games that he played this year to go for 1,000 yards and multiple, I believe, a 10 touchdown season. So I feel like he's kind of due for a breakout year. And that's why he got the big contract. By the way, it's like almost not barely any of it's guaranteed, so it's very cuttable. So everyone
That's
knows.
the thing, though, is with me, I feel like contracts are kind of a deterrent from drafting players in fantasy. I feel like once you secure that contract, it's like, okay, I got the contract. You don't see them play as hard. I feel like it's those players that are on their contract years, the final years of their contract. Those are the guys that I kind of pursue. But I do agree that he did actually have a really good, other than his injury, obviously he did have some big games. So I guess we'll see now that the Packers have kind of a lack of they lost a couple of their weapons. There's going to be a lack of attention on those guys, and we'll see if Christian Watson can handle being that big of a threat in that offense, given that he doesn't have the support with Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Dobbs now.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if Jaden Reed, can stay healthy. Matthew Golden is the guy that the Green Bay can that they think he is. I think it could be a really good year for Green Bay offensively. And it also kind of depends on how well Josh Jacobs can one stay out of legal trouble and two just stay healthy. If he stays healthy and productive, that team could do anything they want. I feel like that was the only thing that helped them back. It felt like, and then Turner Craft being thrown back into the mix. I mean, this team was humming before these injuries start hitting. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see definitely. But I give my team like a B plus. Not, I don't want to be picking out of the one spot if I'm in fantasy personally. So too many big decisions.
Yeah, I personally don't like the one spot either. I think it's hard to pick from. I think especially one of one this year is not a guarantee. I think one of four might be one of the better spots. And you can kind of see it by the way this guy drafted his team. He got some pretty
He's
solid
stud, bro.
picks, and then kind of later in the draft they're kind of just picking whatever. But those early picks were really good. You get Puka, you get Devon, you get Chris Olave, Luther Burden, some really big players. You still end up with a quarterback like Jaden McDaniels, and then you get a rookie like Makai Lemon, who's already slid into wide receiver two at that team. So, you know, I think that that's kind of an ideal spot because I think any of those first four players that you see drafted there are worthy of a one of one pick, honestly. So
They are,
I think ideally
you
you
could
want to
say
have
first
that one of
one through
four spot.
five. 1 through 6
Yeah,
is
even
honestly
even the
worthy.
fifth spot's pretty good. Yeah, I think six is a little bit of a stretch. McCaffrey's always a risk. Everyone's always saying that, and then he always ends up either panning out or not. You can see it right there. It's
That is
almost every other
disgusting,
year.
dude.
Yeah, you have a 50% chance of actually having a good year with him. So
Dude, oh, he's so good. Oh,
yeah,
6 out of his 9 seasons, man, top 10. 5 out of his 9, top 2. Oh my god. I mean, you're just like kind of foolish, like when you don't take him because like you're sitting there saying, I didn't get McCaffrey, and then he just blows your doors
And then
off
he
every
does.
fucking
Yep.
week. So like if I get him, I just know it's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if the Rockies won.
Yeah, you
You've
get
got
him
to be
and you're
fucking kidding
happy,
me.
but then you always feel like the Rockies lose.
Of course they did. They suck.
Yeah.
God damn it. 5-4 final. They came back in the 9th. You just
Well,
can't fucking
they got a
win.
walk-off walk. Yeah, they got a walk-off walk.
Who's pitching? I need to know this. Cole Caird, go ahead, of course.
Juan Mejia got relieved, and then Seth Halvorsen.
Oh, look at that.
God, gave up the runs.
Victor Vodnik gave up a run in the 8th. What's new? God, you fucking suck. Pedro Ramirez, who's pitching? Halverson. Why are you pitching Halverson in the bottom? I'm done. I'm so done with this team. I'm so done. Anyways, guys.
But anyways.
Let's get into our Denver sports fact of the week. And what year did our beloved bullshit Rockies win their franchise record 92 wins?
The Blake Street Bombers back in, oh man, is it really not the Blake Street Bombers?
It's not the Blake Street.
Then I have no idea.
It was the 2009 Rockies. Fun fact as well. In that middle of the season, they fired manager that took us to the World Series, hired Jim Tracy, and he took us up.
There you go.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That kind of wraps it up for our 8th episode of the Altitude Problems podcast. Hope you guys have a good week, and keep hopes alive with the Rockies.
Have a good week, fellas.
Yeah, have a good one, boys. Peace.